Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this VR or video response to Candy over at Candy, Soul and Soil, who created this delightful tag dating the tarot. So this was actually a VR that was requested for me to do by a member of our Supportive Tarot Facebook group. And this was one that was definitely on my list regardless, but I am really excited to do this. If you are not already subscribed to Candy, I will have a link to her channel down below. Go get you subscribed. She is an absolute delight. I love her content. She's got a very pure, sweet soul, and she's a joy to watch. So definitely check her out and check out her original video because she does a great job of explaining all of these categories. But in essence, my understanding of it is that Candy created this as a way to talk about some of the decks that came into your collection in 2020, and I think these all technically count. There may be no, I think these all count. Yeah, they all count. Okay, good. Things that came into your collection in 2020 but that didn't quite make the cut from a favorites perspective. As you've already seen my top 5 tarot and oracle from 2020, I thought it would be really fun to do a Dating the Tarot 2020 VR so that you get a chance to see some of the other decks that I have different kinds of relationships with. And it's a really clever tag. So if you have done a VR to this tag, or if you want to drop your answers in the comments below, or a link to your video, just let me know. YouTube may automatically filter out links, so maybe just let me know you've done a VR and I can go take a look at it because these have been really fun to watch. But with that said, I'm going to dive in. So the first category is the Cheapskate Date. So this is the one that you picked up because, well, it was affordable, it was cheap, why not? But that you really grew to have a connection with, and I'm just putting it in my own words, but the deck that fits that sort of spot for me is the gorgeous Tattoo Tarot Ink and Intuition by Megamundi. So this was one of those decks, I literally bought it because it was cheap. I really like these playing card style backs, and I cannot even begin to describe how much fun I've had with this deck, even though it is a pip deck. This deck got me excited to work with reversals. You can see I've got reversals mixed in here. And it's really, I don't know what it is. It's something about the way that it feels kind of vintagey. I think I feel about this deck a little bit like I feel about the Dame Darcy Mermaid Tarot. There's something about this time period look to me that is attractive. I don't know how to describe this style of art, but there's something about it that grabs me. It's like muted colors. It's got this kind of oldish feel, but still modern. It's not a proper Marseille deck because the minor arcana are not in Marseille positions. But there's a very Marseille kind of feel to the deck. I don't know how else to describe that. I just really, really enjoy this. Now, it is based on tattoo art, but of a particular style, right? Like here we have somebody who actually has, a lot of the characters actually have tattoos, but again, it feels very classy and vintagey. I don't even know how to describe. The cardstock feels really nice. It shuffles beautifully. It's matte, but it's got a little bit of a sheen to it. So it's got a coating. It's thick, it's sturdy, it shuffles well. I don't know. This just, for the price, I think I paid like $12 or something for it. Actually, no, I don't even think that's right. I think I got this from somebody locally for like $5. I think that was the deal. I don't know, but even, no, I did order this brand new. Gosh, my memory, you guys. It was inexpensive. It was inexpensive. I think $15, $18, something like that Canadian. I mean, it was so cheap, and I don't know if it was on sale at the time, but it's also not an expensive deck to begin with. But it has this very like indie deck kind of feel to it, even though it is definitely available in the mass market. Fun. This deck is so fun. And it's funny because I had the other Tattoo Tarot, which is called, oh gosh, I'm not going to remember right now. And I ended up trading that other one. And that other one, by all rights, should have been the one I was more attracted to. Yeah, like this is a very Marseille arrangement of the wands for the 10 of Wands. Every time I hold it, I just want to keep playing with it. I've used it a bunch. I've used it for myself, but I've also used it in pick-a-card readings, and I've used it in my live readings that I do over on my second channel, which a link to that is also always down below. But yeah, I really love reaching for this, like a lot. It's like probably my favorite pip deck. I don't know why. I really don't. It's just, I love it so much. Okay, anyway, that was my Cheapskate Date. Gosh, you guys, I'm going to have to speed it up if we're going to get through all these. Okay, so the next one is the Slow Burner. So this is kind of the one that, like, you brought in, you weren't sure, it kind of grew on you, and that is definitely the Cosmic Slumber Tarot. This was a deck that was sent to me for the purposes of review, and to be honest, it was not one I was going to pick up. I was really excited to get an opportunity to review it, but I wasn't sure how I felt until I got it, and you know, I wasn't sure if I even liked the backs, but those have grown on me. It's glossy, but I will tell you from walkthrough, it started to grow on me because all of the symbolism is very well researched and there's a lot to it. It's got this, it does have this sort of dreamlike quality to it, where you feel like you're in this alternative reality when you're looking at the artwork. Now, Tilly Walden is somebody that is very well known for her work as a graphic artist, or I don't know if graphic artist is the right word, for her work in graphic novels, I believe it is, or gosh, you guys, I'm bad at this part, but I don't know, she has a fan base, a very strong fan base, and yet was not on my radar at all, so this deck wasn't entirely on my radar. But I had it on my Amazon wishlist for a long time, never pulled the trigger, had the opportunity to review it, and this one has really grown on me. It reads super well. Again, this is one that I really put through its paces on my second channel during live readings, and I loved how it read, but it also read really well for me personally, and that's sort of my sweet spot. I've definitely had decks that read really well in like readings for clients or readings for others, but that I don't like working with for myself, and those tend to not stick around in my collection, even, you know, kind of regardless of why. I love how this Emperor is like shielding this little lamb. Oh, I love it. But yeah, there's a lot of really smart stuff in here. It feels like there's some influence in this deck from different methods of tarot. So it feels like it has influence from Rider-Waite-Smith for sure, but also influence from Thoth and Marseille. If you look for it, you can kind of see, at least I feel like I can see those influences. So this was a slow burner. Again, it wasn't one I was entirely really sure about, but the more time that I spent with it, the more I grew to really, really like it. And yeah, it's a really wonderful deck. And it did come into my collection in 2020. I'm not a fan of the box though, y'all. I think I've talked about that. There's like a cardboard filler in here, which is nice because it keeps everything in its place, but it's just not attractive. And it's just too many pieces. Really cool. Like, I love this. If this was something that I stored on a shelf, this would be great. But because I don't, I'm not as big of a fan. I'm sure there are lots of people that love it though, but just not for me. Anyway, so that is the Cosmic Slumber Tarot. That would be my slow burner deck. Next up is the Blind Date. Now this would be, I would say, the category for the impulse buy. The deck that you just like bought, mostly sight unseen. This was a tricky category for me because I buy very little sight unseen. I almost always at least attempt to look up some kind of imagery or walkthrough or something. But these decks were incredibly impulsive for me. I had been struggling to find animal decks, specifically for pet readings that come up sometimes in my live readings on my second channel, or that could just come up, or maybe even for myself. And so I wanted a basic cat and dog deck. So I went ahead and purchased this duo. So this is in one of Peggy's divided bags, and it's perfect for this purpose. But I have the Magical Dogs Tarot and the Mystical Cats Tarot. And for starters, the way that these two synergize as far as their art style and their backings, I think this is so cool. And for just having a go-to cat and dog deck, these are fantastic. And I do think they're really well done. These are Llewellyn decks. Again, I bought them pretty much sight unseen, but I bought them for a specific purpose. So I really wanted a cat deck and a dog deck. I have really struggled with dog decks. I've had a couple come into my collection and eventually move on, including the Lowrider Dachshund Tarot and the Wise Dog Tarot, which are both amazing decks, but they eventually went on to homes that they would be really appreciated because the reality is that they just weren't quite scratching the itch for dog decks for me. Cat decks, I'm a lot less picky. What I like about these Llewellyn cat and dog decks is that they're incredibly Rider-Waite-Smith clone-ish, but they still capture the sort of vibe of the animals that are represented. So this feels like a cat deck. It doesn't feel like cats just thrown into RWS, but like the 11 card consequences, here we have a cat all super tangled up in all of this like stuff. It's gotten itself into this mess like that. It reads beautifully, but it also, you can feel the personality of cats here. This 5 of C with this wet cat is hilarious. Obviously was going after fish, got the fish, but got really wet in the process. Like, it's actually, these are really, really smart. I'm not a huge cat person. Like, I love cats, but I've had bad luck with cats that tend to be kind of standoffish. So, you know, I love other people's cuddly cats. That's kind of my thing. But I mean, I like all animals, but I don't know. I'm more of a dog person. So anyways, I was less picky about this. So I was like, well, I'll scoop this one up. And it actually is really quite a delight. I love that. And then the magical dogs, I don't think any dog deck can be perfect. And I think what I've realized for myself is that because it's not my dogs. Like, if I had a tarot deck made up of just my dogs in different situations, that would work. I'm not sure I will ever put that kind of effort in to create something like that. But I think this deck does a really good job. I realized that previous to this deck, my favorite would have been the Lowrider Dachshund Tarot because it's so beautifully done. And I feel like it captures dog energy really, really well. Ultimately, the reason I didn't get on with it is because it was all dachshunds, and my dogs aren't dachshunds. This deck has a variety of breeds, so I feel like you're thinking more about dogs in general than a particular kind of dog, which helps me to just kind of imagine my dogs in these different situations. And since I got this deck, and the cat deck, so that I could read about situations to do with one's pet dog or pet cat, whether mine or somebody else's. These just work really well for that purpose because, again, not specific about any particular type or breed or whatever, but lots of dog personality in these cards. I mean, they're great. These are really, really well done. So check these out. I believe Mickey Mueller, and I forget the artist. I can't remember who's who, the creator or the artist, but these are both by the same duo, and so they have a synergy to them. Again, both in the style of the artwork, the backs, everything. So if you want like a cat and dog deck, I feel like these are such a great pairing. So yeah, so this is in a divided bag, and it's got these cute little paw prints all over it. So it's really easy to reach for. Hanging on my wall, it's like, oh yeah, I want my cat or my dog deck. I just grab this bag. It's perfect. So that would be my blind date or my impulse purchase, I would say. The next category is your rebound. I have so many rebounds. But the way this was described, what I took away from it is the deck that just kind of you keep going back to. This is a deck that I have tried to move on from, and I can't. And so I ended up rehoming it, and then it came back to me. I've got a few decks that fit this category, but this one was particularly stubborn. Down to the point where I had actually, in a giveaway quite some time ago, we had actually drawn for somebody to win this exact bag, and the person never got in touch, so I still ended up holding on to the bag for a really long time, and then I had an opportunity to get the deck back, so now I have the deck back in the bag, and it's like a whole thing. But my friend Erica actually gifted this deck back to me when I realized that I missed it, but it is the Wild Unknown Tarot by Kim Krans. Part of the thing for me with this deck is this deck was ultimately what kind of brought me back into being really excited about tarot again. I actually came into the YouTube, I guess, divination world, community, etc. because of Lenormand. It was actually Lenormand that brought me back here. And I was working with Lenormand. I had fallen out of love, I guess, with tarot in some ways. And Lenormand brought me back into the divination world, got me excited about looking at different systems and decks and things like that. But it was this deck. This was probably one of my first purchases of a new tarot deck into my collection. And this became such a huge milestone for me, or stepping stone for me, because it just excited me about tarot all over again. It was like this, what Kim Krans did cannot be stated, I think, as it cannot be understated enough, overstated enough. It cannot, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I feel like it's constantly underestimated, this deck, because in so many ways this deck came in and it shook up the status quo when it came to tarot decks. She brought something really fresh and really new to this space, and I know I'm not the only one who had a new appreciation for what was possible with art of tarot decks, what a tarot deck could be. It all shifted with this deck, in my opinion. That was my experience, and after this deck, everything started to open really, really wide as far as what kinds of things we started to see on the market, what caught our attention, what we as consumers of tarot decks wanted to see. This is the mass market edition. It is really stunning, and it reads shockingly well, despite the fact that the deck in many ways can be kind of pippish and minimalist. There's something about it, and as much as other decks sometimes are more exciting to me visually to look at, this one, again, forever has a special place because of the way that it shifted my experience of tarot. So when we think about like a Rebound, a deck that I keep kind of going back to, or that I don't really quite understand the connection, but it's there, it's this deck. It's this deck for sure. So, and I'm sure there's others that I've had similar experiences with, but this one just feels particularly special. And I'm really glad that I now have it back in my collection and that it can stay in my collection. Very much, like I said, kind of a milestone deck for me. Really, really love. And this fabric from the moment I first spotted it was wild unknown to me in my head. That's what it was. I think it's all the sticks and branches and things, but anyway, so that would be my Rebound deck. I'm really slow at this, you guys. I'm sorry. Okay, so the Surprise Love Affair. So this is the one that like kind of snuck up on you that you didn't know you were going to love as much as you did. Again, these are just my interpretations of the categories. Candy does such a much more beautiful job of explaining the categories, but this is the Tarot of the Divine by Yoshi Yoshitani. Okay. So this deck is special to me for a couple of reasons. First of all, I was contacted by a member of this community, by somebody who watches my channel, when this deck, fairly early on, I believe, when it was up for pre-order. And this person reached out to me and said, I really want you to have this. I've pre-ordered it for you, or I am pre-ordering it for you. I can't remember the way it was expressed. And I was so touched and excited, and it made the anticipation for this deck really exciting in a way, partly because I literally had no idea when it would arrive because it was a pre-order and this person pre-ordered it for me months and months before it came out. And there was something really cool about that. And this same person contacted me actually around the time that the deck released and said, I've also just pre-ordered you the book, the separate guidebook for it. There's a full-size book with the same artwork and fairy tales. Anyways, this was a whole experience for me in 2020. And I didn't know how I was going to feel about it. And I actually avoided walkthroughs and other people talking about it until my copy arrived for the most part, because I wanted to have my own experience, because it kind of felt in a way like being set up on a blind date. I know that blind date was a different category. I can't help it making the association, but it kind of felt like that. Like I didn't really know how we were going to get on. There was nothing impulsive about it because of course it was coming to me, but I don't know. And then I get it in, and like the cardstock is so wonderful. It's like that linen cardstock, but it's almost got like a plasticky feel to it, and I really enjoy that. The artwork is so spectacular. It captures the energy of fairy tales so well. And I would actually venture to say that I enjoy this deck more than I enjoy Lisa Hunt's Fairy Tale Tarot, which I have the Spanish edition of. And that's saying something because that was a deck that I coveted for a long time. But this one, I feel like it teaches me something. It's so Rider-Waite-Smith and so readable right out of the box without knowing anything about the stories, because the way that the images are depicted captures the meaning of the card separate from the story. But the stories are there to be explored and enjoyed, and I feel like I can get into these stories at any depth level that I'd like to. Like I can just read this deck right out of the box, or I can dive into the fairy tale and see what else comes through for me with the story. And I love that about this deck. It just, it's really actually incredibly spectacular, in my opinion. Do I think that any deck like this that features so many different cultures from so many different places in the world, do I think it's going to get it right 100% of the time? Absolutely not. I don't think that's even possible for one person or even one business to get completely right. But decks like this are so wonderful for whetting your appetite to learn more about different cultures, about folklore from different areas of the world. And I think this deck does that in a very respectful, beautiful way. Again, is it going to get it all right? No. Is that going to be problematic for some people? Absolutely. It's just not for me. I really enjoy the effort made here. I really feel like you're given enough that you can do your own homework and dive deeper. And I love that. I love that about this deck. I really, really, really love this deck. And it's funny because I'm looking at this now, and at the time I'm filming this, I'm actually playing around with Lisa Hunt's deck. And I'm like, I'm going to make a swap. And I'm going to start playing with this for the next few days, because I just, playing with Lisa Hunt's deck and then looking at this, I actually miss this a lot. Like a surprising amount. So I think I'm actually going to make that swap. Just looking at, anyways, I'm sorry. I'm distracting myself. I'm a squirrel. I can't help it. But this being a mass market deck to me is really special. And I don't know. I don't ever want people to feel like they need all the things, because you don't need all the things. And I can't say it enough. But This is really, really special. And if you're looking for a fairy tale deck, particularly if you have been coveting out of print fairy tale decks, there are two very expensive fairy tale decks that people regularly covet. And they go for ridiculous prices on eBay. And that is Lisa Hunt's Fairy Tale Tarot and Baba Studio's Fairy Tale Tarot. And I can tell you from personal experience, I have had and have rehomed my Baba Studio's Fairy Tale Tarot. While beautiful, didn't bond with it in any kind of major way. And my Lisa Hunt Fairy Tale Tarot is a little bit lackluster for me. I'm not going to lie. And I don't know how much of that is because I had so much buildup or of anticipation about those decks. This one knocks those out of the park, in my personal opinion. And it's all going to be a matter of personal taste. It's going to be the mix of stories and how they resonate for you. It's going to be so many different factors. But if you're coveting those two and you haven't taken a look at this one, you might want to. Because you might find that this $20, $30 deck fits the bill and you won't be hunting on eBay for something that's going to cost you sometimes several $100s. So something to think about for sure. But there's so much to this deck and I love it. Oh my gosh, I can't stop talking and we're only like on category 5 of like 10. Okay, I'm gonna keep going, but I'm gonna keep this out because I really, really want to pull it into my rotation currently. Okay, next up, the Not My Type deck from 2020. So this is actually the last deck at the time I'm filming this. I think there's actually going to be 1 or 2 more that have made it into my collection for 2020. I know this video is going up in January, but I'm filming this at the end of December, so I know what the story is. But anyways, the Morgan Greer Tarot is one that I have said again and again is not my style. There's something about the like mustaches and things like that show up in this, but more and more throughout 2020, this deck has been like calling to me. I'm going to actually zoom us in a bit because these are small and I don't want to lift my arms up because lazy. Anyways, there is, however, something to be said for these incredibly bold and vivid colors. Yes, this deck has a 70s vibe to it, for sure. But that's not usually a deterrent for me. I think there were other reasons why I was really hesitating to scoop this one up. But I am so glad that I took the plunge because it is one of these decks that, while, yeah, on the surface, not my type, it's borderless. The tin size is perfect for things that I like to use these smaller decks for. And I love how like vintagey it looks. Like the backgrounds look almost like, I guess you could say almost Dirty Pam-like, in that they've got like little gradients or little speckles in them. There is something about the richness in the color that I love. And you guys know I'm a sucker for color. So the fact that I held out on this deck as long as I did is kind of a surprise to me, actually. The cardstock is a little bit thinner than some of the other US Games Tarot in a Tin decks, but it still feels really nice. And it shuffles really, really well. It's a fantastic Rider-Waite-Smith clone. It is a classic. In fact, I actually picked up the Aquarian Tarot in a tin because I thought I might like it better than this. And I prefer this. Just because of color. I'm such a sucker for color. Yeah, this handlebar mustache, that's the one. That's the one that I was like, nah, I don't need that deck. But I really like it. I really, really like it. So this is one of those ones that definitely would say not my type, but really wanted it anyway. And I'm so glad that I scooped it up. Love that 9 of Swords. So yeah, there's a lot of really great depictions in here. The fact that the characters are so close to you definitely, I think, is a cool perspective. I do find that I like this about certain decks. It's what I like. One of the things I like about the Rainbow Heart Tarot is how close the figures are in a lot of the cards. But I also really enjoy these tin-sized decks. I don't think I would need to also scoop this up in a full size. I will enjoy it in this size. I'm going to zoom this back out again. But I'm really glad that I scooped this one up. Again, shuffles so beautifully. Love, 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 love. So yeah, a little bit too close. There we go. So this was the one that I would say not my type. So glad I scooped it up. I have now a little collection of these tin-sized decks. I love these for my zodiac readings that I do on my second channel because they fit on my turntable really well. And then I also love traveling with decks like this because I know I can just chuck them in a bag or chuck them in a suitcase and I don't have to worry about anything happening to them. I also kind of like cute things in tins. So, I mean, there's just that too. So there is that. So that's the Morgan Greer Tarot. Next up is I May Have to Delete Your Number deck. Okay, so the thing with this category is this is kind of a little bit like a decks I kind of regret, but also kind of don't. This is the deck that like I would not bring home to mom. You know what I mean? Not that I, you know what I mean, like as a concept. This is actually an out of print deck that I purchased, and this is the Rorig Tarot. Now, to be completely fair, I actually think this deck is really, really cool. But it also kind of weirds me out at times. And it's one of those decks that I think I'm going to, I haven't worked with it yet. I have filmed a walkthrough. I haven't put it up on the channel yet, but this deck is very much a Thoth based deck. Actually, I'm going to just hold it. So I'm going to zoom back out again. I can't make up my mind. It's collage. It's very, it feels like Thoth. It's really cool. It has a lot of really cool layers to it. There's also a lot of like toplessness happening in here, topless women energy going on. It has a very galactic almost kind of vibe to it. I like some of the words that kind of come out. There's different languages here, but so like this has stripe here, streben, different words, and I think they're different languages. But it's strife, right? That's the 5 of Wands. Or this is strive. I feel like it's supposed to be strife. I could be wrong. Somebody who knows Thoth, feel free to correct me down below. This has just a really funky vibe to it. I actually initially got it because it reminded me a little bit of the Voyager Tarot, which I have a whole story about that deck. And I do actually have a copy of the Voyager Tarot headed to me at the time that I'm filming this, for reasons which I will go into when I film that video. This deck, it's really cool to me. I love all the different symbols. I love that we have a lot of the, we have like runes that show up in different cards. We have the Hebrew letters. We have the astrological symbols. It just feels like it'll be really fun. And it's one that I'm kind of reserving, like I mentioned, for when I do my Thoth study. Because I feel like it's going to be a really fun one to play with when I know Thoth a little better, or when I'm trying to get to know Thoth a little better. So I'm actually really excited to work with it. Yeah, here's one where it just feels like there's a lot of maybe not necessarily required nudity happening, but I'm okay with it. It's fun, and it feels exactly like it is it's like what you see on the box, right? I cannot look at this card and not think about the Borg. Anybody else? Anybody? Hello? Borg ship? I mean, it's just a cube. So, and there is a full-size guidebook for this deck. I haven't picked it up yet because the guidebook is also, like, the full-size book is also out of print. Dustin had been talking about this deck after I'd already been looking at it, and I scooped it up. I literally purchased this deck during Dustin's live. I was like, well, that's it. It's meant to be. And Dustin also managed to get a hold of the book, but I wasn't able to find one for a reasonable price yet. I've seen copies for like $50, $60 US, which is too much for the book for me right now. But if I find a copy for a little bit less money, I'll probably scoop it up. And if I still haven't found one by the time it's time for me to study this deck, I will probably go ahead and just pay the money for it, because I think the guidebook will be really helpful. But like, that's a great card, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like it's really cool. But I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. So this is definitely in that sort of like, I don't know, am I going to delete your number? Am I going to pass you on someday? It's possible. We will see. But there's something about this style of collage deck that just, I don't know, it just does something for me. I think it's like almost like this weird thing where like, I don't like it, so I like it. I don't know how else to say it, but there are a lot of boops in this deck, just be warned. So that is the Rorig Tarot. Still haven't worked with it. Will be working with it in the future. Again, probably when I study Thoth, but also, it's in one of these like OG Peggy bags that was in this holographic material that she got once a long time ago, which I love. Anyways, that's a side note. All right, next up is the relationship, the sort of stormy relationship, the on-off relationship. So let's talk about that one. So in this category, I definitely have to put my Modern Witch Tarot. You guys, I have some opinions about this. Now, I was sent the Modern Witch Tarot deck for review from Liminal 11, who have been very graciously sending me some decks for review lately, and this one was one that I anti-hauled in favor of This Might Hurt Tarot. Now, I've done a full walkthrough of this deck, and I even did some side-by-sides of This Might Hurt, and I have to tell you, I love this deck. I love the artwork. I think it's fun and modern, but still feels like you're working with a classic deck, while the imagery is actually much more diverse and modern. It is a fantastic reader. This deck, This deck works so well right out of the gate if you have any knowledge of Rider-Waite-Smith, but it pulls in modern life. It pulls in some diversity. Like, look at this Ten of Swords, which, of course, a lot of us have seen this image. This deck is so well done. It's so, so smart. And I feel like this could, for real, be a cult classic. And I think the only reason I don't think it's quite gotten there yet is the cardstock. And I hate saying that because, of course, since this deck has come out, Liminal 11 has shifted their cardstock, so it's slightly less glossy and also thinner and easier to shuffle. But no matter what I have tried to do with this deck to figure out how to get a good shuffle, like a good riffle shuffle out of it, I just can't. It is massively thick. Let's zoom us back out. And it's incredibly stiff. And I have strong hands, y'all, but I cannot. Oh, of course, now that I'm on camera, I get a shuffle out of it. I swear to gosh, I have been working with this deck for like a couple of weeks and I have not been able to get a shuffle like that out of it the entire time. That's really frustrating that it happens on camera. Yeah, see, now it's shuffling fine. I think it's something to do with sitting at my table. That could be it. To believe it or not, I only do some tarot here at this table for myself. I do a lot of other tarot on the fly. And when I'm not, like, I guess when I'm not sitting at this specific angle at a specific table, it just doesn't want to shuffle for me. See, it's shuffling perfectly now for the most part. It still clumps a lot. But see, it does that kind of thing because the cards are really stiff and they're super, super, super glossy. And that is ultimately the main reason I don't think I'll be reaching for this deck a lot. And yet I love it. So I actually messaged, again, at the time I'm filming this, if I have heard back by the time this video goes up, I will try to remember to pop a comment down below or put it in the description box. But I actually reached out to my contact at Liminal 11 and asked if there was any plans to reprint this deck in the future on that thinner, slightly less glossy cardstock. Even just the thinner cardstock, less glossy aside. Because I would actually purchase this again for myself, or not again, obviously I was gifted it the first time, but I would purchase this for myself in a different cardstock just to have it. And I know I'm not the only one. I've talked to other people who have this deck and have the same struggle with the cardstock, and they've said the same thing. The challenge obviously for Liminal 11 is that they won't be able to do that if they have tons of stock of this left. So, I mean, that's a bit of a catch-22. Now, that being said, if you are a hand over hand shuffler primarily, wow, this deck has a beautiful hand over hand shuffle. It's really, really nice. My problem is that lately with more classic Rider-Waite-Smith style decks, I have been wanting to put in reversals. And Peggy has this cool method where she'll do this kind of shuffle, but then she'll take a chunk and she'll like flip them around to make sure some reversals get in there. And that method just hasn't really grown on me. And I like to riffle. It's a thing. I really like riffling. And I can't riffle this deck comfortably. So then I don't reach for it, which I recognize is very superficial of me, but I can't help it. But anyways, this is just a fantastic deck, but we're in a stormy relationship because of the aesthetics of it. That's basically it, the cardstock. And that brings us to our final category, which is the Friends with Benefits deck. This is the deck that we find ourselves that I kind of find myself why can't I say this right? I keep going back to it for reasons that may seem kind of superficial, even though it's maybe not one that I would have picked out as like a favorite or anything. And that is the Marseille Cat Tarot. I'm sure that Dustin, every time he hears me talk about this deck, is like, why, Lisa? Why? Why is this the Marseille deck that has become my go-to? I mean, I think in part, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But the really classic Marseille decks with their like basic colors, primary colors like this, I don't tend to like them very much. I mean, it is what it is, right? It's the way of my world. And I'm not even a particularly, like, really consider myself a cat person at all, really. But there's something about these, like, cats and outfits and the way that the colors are done on this deck and the way that the cardstock is so, like, super flexible. This is a low Scarabeo deck. So it's like a more thin, bendy cardstock. So it's a breeze to shuffle. I freaking love this death card. Can we talk about this? So cute. But there's something about this deck, and I just, every time I want to like reach for like a Marseille for like maybe to reference or for study or I don't know, just I always keep reaching for this one. And actually there was a time that I recommended this because I was like, well, it's got little nods to the Rider-Waite-Smith. Like here in the Four of Wands, you have this like cat couple who's like having a little dance. So it kind of reminds you of the Rider-Waite-Smith. That actually can get in the way of really learning to work with the Marseille deck if there's like Rider-Waite-Smith nods like there is here. And yet for some reason I still keep going back to this deck. Like, why though? I don't know why. It's so silly. But I keep reaching for it when I think of Marseille deck. In fact, I don't put this in a bag and hang it up because I don't want to forget that it's there. Do you know what I mean? Like I did for a bit and then I was like, no, I just need this out on a shelf so that I can see it and reach for it easy, because when I want to play with Marseille, this is one of the ones that I'm so quick to reach for. I don't know why. Why do I keep going back to this one? Don't know. So this is kind of my Friends with Benefits deck. It is not one that in theory I would have any interest in having any kind of a relationship with. Like these cat's head on like people body kind of thing. It's not my style at all. This is another one that I guess I could have also put in the not my type category. Because there's so many reasons why this is not my type, but I keep fooling around with it, guys. I can't stop fooling around with it. Oh my gosh. So that, my friends, is my VR to hashtag dating the tarot. Thank you again to Candy, Soul, and Soil for doing this hashtag, because this was so much fun. And then I get to showcase more of the decks that came into my collection in 2020 that I have really enjoyed. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. I would love to see other VRs to this. So as I mentioned, if you've done a video response, a VR, let me know down below. I will go look for it and find it. Sometimes if you put the link, YouTube will automatically remove your comment because it doesn't allow links by default. But if you tell me you've done it, I will go hunt it down and watch it if I can, because I've really been enjoying seeing VRs to this tag. Again, thank you so much to Candy for creating it. It was such a clever and fun and creative idea, and it was a lot of fun to like think about which decks I had that would fit these categories. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I really had a lot of fun. Please do remember to click the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new here. Click the little bell to be notified of all my future videos and my sometimes spontaneous live streams. And if you want to book a one-on-one tarot reading with me, you can always do that over at supportivetarot.com. Thank you so, so much, and may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye, guys.